So in this case, we're using a Soyuz 1973 condenser microphone, and we have it patched into this Rupert Neve Designs 511 mic pre. Phantom power is on so that we can get the microphone powered up. We don't need the phase switch in this case because we're not doing anything with multiple microphones. I have a high pass filter engaged to clean up the low end. I don't need the texture circuit in this case because I'm not trying to make it sound gritty. In fact, I've been overusing my voice the last couple of days and it already has a little bit of grittiness to it, so I'm going to avoid that. The next thing in the vocal chain is this Harrison EQ. It is used in this way. I'm going to turn off the EQ and I'm going to turn off the high and low pass filter. Probably what you hear is a sound that is pretty natural, but maybe could use some enhancement. And so I used this EQ to bring out the low frequency of my voice a little, make it a little bit warmer, and also make it a little bit more articulate. There's some bands on this. It's a parametric equalizer, so it has a high frequency band. This is gain and frequency selection. And then it has a high mid band, gain, frequency, and then a low mid band here, gain, frequency, same here, low band, gain, frequency, and then the red pair of knobs are a high pass filter and a low pass filter. So if I engage my high low pass circuit, you can hear that I actually just am taking off a little bit of top end. I think I don't need the very top end, so I've rolled it down from 22 kilohertz down to about probably 19 or 18, and it's just taking off the very top of my voice that I don't think is necessary for the video. And then I'm cleaning it up a little. I'm using the low mid band to take out some of the sort of boxiness of my voice, and I'm also standing over the console so the microphone is reflecting off this desk, and so that's helping clean some of that up. And then I've also added some brightness to the top end. This is like set to 10 kilohertz or so on the frequency selector, and I've boosted by around 3 or 4 dB, and that's in what's called peak mode. So it turns the high shelf into a peak, and now let's hear how that sounds. I also did a tiny bit of boosting in the very lows, and this is just to kind of enhance the richness. Let's hear that. Okay, so now the EQ is engaged, and I think it sounds a little bit cleaner. It's a little bit more articulate and a little tiny bit warmer. In fact, I could probably make an adjustment there to kind of warm it up even more. So here's without EQ, and here's with EQ, and so that just kind of cleans up the recording slightly. So the vocal chain in this case was the simplest path that we could get, which is a Rupert Neve Designs 511 to a EQ. And in all cases, we're just using the gear as intended to get a clean sound for the video. And now a related use case of using the gear as intended. Real simple setup with the mic preamp, some cleaning done with the Harrison, but then taking it over to next in the patch bay, I routed it here to the Rupert Neve 543 compressor. This is a VCA compressor, and it's a clean, easy to make sound natural compressor. You can see it has a threshold, it has a ratio, it has an attack and release, and a makeup gain. You can engage it here. Blue is engaged, no LED is off, and then it has a detection circuit for whether it's RMS or peak. And so that will just be, something that you'd want to decide, how is the compressor being used. If you really want to listen to transient material and peak material, then set it to peak. And you could even see that when I set it to peak, it's doing more gain reduction in its current state. If I put it in RMS, then it's not grabbing on the material as hard because it is not there long enough. It's not loud enough for long enough. So if I'm just trying to clean up a vocal, somebody that's like me, just not good at controlling their dynamic level, then put it in peak mode and it will grab that stuff and control it a little bit better. A 4-to-1 ratio is fine. A fast attack is great. A pretty fast release is also great for a vocal. And then I can set the threshold based on what I want to do. And in this case, I think a few dB of gain reduction could be a nice thing. And I could use makeup gain to bring up the overall level so that the rest of the recording chain is optimized. And yeah, now that's sounding pretty good. I have a clean mic preamp, cleaning done with the EQ, and then a real simple setup with the compressor to help tighten the recording. So now we'll look at the same setup of Rupert Neve Designs 511 into the Harrison and into this VCA compressor to get a little bit grittier sound. Let's use the equipment, let's abuse the equipment a little bit just to get some more tone. One thing that we can do on the Rupert Neve Designs is engage the silk circuit. When we turn the silk circuit on, it routes the signal through a transformer, and the transformer will become saturated when you drive the signal harder into the unit. So let me do something here. I'm going to turn the threshold up on our compressor so it doesn't compress, and I'm going to turn the makeup gain all the way down. Now I'm going to overgain the mic preamp, and I'm going to turn the trim down, and I'm going to overgain it even more. And now you should hear a grittier sound from this, because we're pushing signal into the unit, as you can see, and we have the silk circuit engaged. As we bring the texture knob up, you'll hear that it's a grainier, grittier, more distorted sound, and you can use the texture knob to really bring out the characteristics that you might want for a vocal that needs to be forward in a mix that is already pretty dense. So the texture is good for bringing things forward. Record this way if you know that you want to bring your sound forward in the mix. If it's not, if you just need it to sound natural and more like we had it, then put the equipment back to its normal state. So continuing on with the more aggressive sound, pulling the texture knob in, overgaining the mic pre, undergaining the compressor, really pushing signal through both of these units. And now I could do some more compression, like heavier compression like this. And I'll have to use the makeup gain now. And what you probably hear is it's a more aggressive sound. It is jumping through your headphones more, and you can hear all the details of my voice. This is terrible for a video, but for something where you really want some color out of the sound in a song, this could work really well. Increasing the ratio will make the compression work harder. And yeah, that's pretty intense, but it's doing a good job. And I think if we were going to do something like this, we'd want to take away the boost that we've done in the highs on the EQ. And we'd probably want to shape the EQ a little differently, maybe bring out some more of the mid-range like this, and do some more low cutting like that. And then now you have a vocal that is pretty aggressive sounding and pretty mid-range forward. Yeah, I think that works pretty well. So that's using the same equipment to get a very different sound, a very aggressive sound. So this vocal chain is quite different. The microphone is being preamplified by this guy here, the Pro MPA2, and it's a tube mic preamp, so it has a different characteristic, maybe a little smoother, has a bit of kind of graininess to the sound, and it's done in a similar way where we need phantom power, we have to increase the gain, And we set, on this one, we have a master output level, because this one's kind of cool. It lets us overgain and then undergain. So if we want to kind of push the sound of the unit like this, we can. I'm going to start with that. We can also change this thing called the impedance knob, and you can get a darker sound or a more normal sound or a more kind of rich sound. Right now I'm kind of liking that, so I'm going to stick with that. And this high pass filter, we could bring that up, cut the lows a bit. All right, we'll start there with this one. And then the signal is leaving this unit and going into the EQ that's just below it. This is called a Pultec EQ, and it's a really nice tone shaping device. It has a low band that can do a boost or a cut, and you set the frequency here. And then it has a high section where you can set the high frequency boost, and you can set the width of the flavor on the peaking filter for the boost of highs. So these three work together: frequency selector, width, and how much boost. And then you have a high cut, and you can set the frequency for that. So for a sound like this, where we kind of have a pretty rich sounding vocal, and we would maybe want to do some stuff to it. Let's cut the bottom end a bit more. I'm going to cut up to 100 hertz and just kind of clean up the bottom end like that. And then let's also do a boost at the same time. And what you're probably hearing is now it's like super boomy, but this could be kind of cool to utilize the gear in this way. We're boosting while cutting, and it's kind of creating a curve where it boosts in the extreme lows and then cuts just above that, creating a little curve with a shelf filter and then a peaking filter. And that's back to normal there. We could also use it for shaping the high frequencies. Like, I think we could maybe get away with having some more top end on this vocal. So set it to 10 kilohertz or so, make it a broad shape, and then bring up the highs. And probably what you hear is it just opens it up a bit. This EQ is good for kind of tone shaping. So if we needed to really bring out my voice more, we could do that. And now I've set the low frequency shelf to 800 and done some boosting, and it really pulls that range out. We could do some cut then, and you can see you can just get some different tonal shapes. In this case, we're not really going for anything specifically, but we're getting some different results that you can hear. And I could go back to this high pass filter and really cut out all of the bottom end like that if I didn't want it. And then I could make some changes here, and that would be a different type of sound. So yeah, you can use all of your tools to tone shape. And yeah, back to more natural sound. One thing that's kind of cool about this bandwidth filter, sort of the shaping of it, is when you turn it to a more sharp and then you boost, that sounds different than if you do the same type of thing on the Harrison EQ. It's still a peaking filter, it's still kind of a tight band, but this is more aggressive and really is kind of focused on that frequency range. So if you really want to make something mid-rangey, you could set it to 3 or 4 kilohertz and do some boosting, and it is a very aggressive sound. And this isn't right for everything. Obviously, this sounds pretty wild, but for the demo, this is showing you that you can really tone shape with the Pultec. And lastly, to really bring home this more mid-forward aggressive tone, this whole time we've been running through the Warm Audio 1176 compressor, but we haven't really been compressing yet. You can see that nothing's happening, no gain reduction is taking place. We would need to push the input up a little higher, pull the output down, push the input up, and then now you can see some compressions taking place. And yeah, this unit it's an aggressive sound. Like, it sort of helps complete this overall sound, which is very mid-rangey and kind of yucky sounding. This could be kind of cool for a screaming rock vocal or something, where you want it to have that aggressive tone. You can set your attack, you can set your release, you can set your ratio. Your input is really the threshold. You can bring it up to the threshold, and then you can pull the unit into, you can gain stage it from here so that you're getting the proper levels. So yeah, you can hear that this is a very aggressive sound. I'm getting tons of compression, and it's a very mid-forward tone. In this last video, we're taking a look at kind of a refined sound, something that's real simple. I've set up the Rupert Neve Designs 511 mic preamp in a real basic way, just as natural as possible, with a little bit of high pass filter on my voice. And then the signal is going to this LA2A here. This is the last piece in our rack that we've yet to explore. And this is an example of maybe just wanting a voiceover that has a rich sound that is sounding real simple, not aggressive. And so I've gone right out of the mic pre and right into this compressor. Remember that the LA2A is not really it's not great for controlling dynamics. It's better for controlling, just kind of leveling things off. It's not great for like grabbing peaks and making things sound really tight. It's kind of a smoother device. So one thing that I do want to do before we get going here is change this high frequency knob all the way to the top. And what that will do is make the unit react more to the highs in my voice. If I have it here, it's going to react more to the mid-range. So you can play around with some different stuff here. In fact, I kind of like in between, maybe like right there, at least in my headphones here. So then your gain reduction is done here, no gain reduction at all. And then if you want some gain reduction, you can pull this up to the point where you're getting something. And for my voice right now, I think that kind of works well. Just a few dB here and there. When I go loud, it compresses, and when I'm quiet, it doesn't. And that is a nice way of just kind of smoothing out my sound. And then we have a makeup gain here. Of course, this isn't 100 dB of gain. It's just a scaling of 0 to 100. Same thing over here. It is just their number scaling. So you can get used to that and dial in your sound from there. So yeah, that's the LA2A. You could use it in any of the instances that we've looked at. But I think for just a kind of simple, refined sound, going straight from a Rupert Neve Designs 511 mic pre into the LA2A will give you that.